Okay, so you're building a house and you've got the option to do brick veneer or double brick. You're buying a unit and the walls are not concrete. Does it really matter when it comes to buying property? Stay tuned. We're going to talk about it today.
Good morning, Mark.
How are ya?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thanks. Top of the morning.
I know. Double the brick, double the price. Haven't we heard that one before?
It is. Do you know what? It seems like it's a topic that we don't talk about much anymore. And in the 90s, 2000, people talked about it a lot. You know, they were really the double brick thing and the concrete slab thing was real and it was good.
It depends who you talk to. I think people, maybe some of our older clientele, definitely still gets brought up quite a lot. And then I find from some of the younger clientele, it doesn't get brought up unless they've got someone that's older that's in their ear about it.
Absolutely. What is the difference? What's material-wise?
Look, put simply, it's obviously the title today, double the brick, double the price, but there's...
What is double brick?
Double brick is where
What is double brick? How do you make them?
Double brick is literally that, two lots of bricks side by side. So when you're looking in a home and when you go and knock on the walls, a brick veneer home will have, it appears to be, let's say the home behind me, brick on the outside, and then you knock and then there's gyprock on the inside when you're knocking on the walls. Versus double brick, you'll see bricks on the outside, you go to knock on the inside, and you're going to be knocking straight onto brick as well. So there's two sets of bricks there.
So you're going to hurt yourself whether you headbutt the wall from the outside or from the inside.
Yeah, if you want to put it that way, put simply. Don't headbutt a double brick wall.
Now, with double brick, people should also know there is the option of doing a timber floor or a concrete floor on the ground floor, and there is the option of doing a concrete floor and a timber floor on the first floor. So then when people say double brick and concrete slabs, that's a pretty solid home. That's a pretty home. But most importantly, there was no other tech. So in the 30s and 40s and 50s, it was one extreme or it was the other extreme. One extreme was a wafer skinny home, fibro on the outside, fibro on the inside. Did not insulate well, cold in winter, hot in summer, and as you know, not really good for you. That fibrous cement that was used. And then there was the other extreme, which was the technology was, stone, I guess, long time ago, which went over to bricks, and then which went over to sort of concrete. So, technology's changed. That's the biggest thing that's brought us to where we are today.
Yeah, I think you nailed it in terms of the technology. It was simplified. You either had something that when you build a brick home with concrete slabs, it was built to last, it was built solid, versus you could only go to the other extreme, which was literally building something that was so fragile that, especially with the technology of the materials then, was not guaranteed to last, and it didn't last very long as well. So you went, okay, I'm either going to do a cheaper build or I'm going to do this suit. Maybe it wasn't as expensive back then, but something that's really, really solid because there was no real in between. And I think these days there is now a whole plethora of just different in-betweens that people can do depending on budgets. And a big thing I think it comes down to is cost. So
and back then it was the same thing, I guess. It was cost prohibitive to be building the amount of labour that went into a double brick home or concrete slabs or whatever that is, or concrete walls sort of home, a lot more costly. Now, I think something we should talk about before we move over to how that affects your pricing is the actual tech. I guess it's all about the user, the people, the homeowner. And when these guys are living in their home, it's about comfort. And these were pretty uncomfortable homes in the last couple of generations. In the 50s, 60s, 70s, if it was a fibro home and you were really, really hot in summer and you were really, really cold in winter, noise transmission was also a thing between rooms and between the road. It was, and the weather. It was just a harsher place to live in. But what actually happened is the technology just got so good with lightweight construction. It almost had the same acoustic and thermal properties and solar properties as a brick, with this cladding, cheaper form of construction, the cladding. So what started to happen was, when they were cladding the outside of the home or they were gyprocking the inside of the home, the products got really good. So people sort of started going, well, I don't actually think I need to do the whole brick thing.
Well, yeah, and if you're able to save on labour, you're able to save on the amount of build material with it, and you get a similar result, you can understand why it's moved in that direction. And I think for people, when you're looking at buying a property, even building a property, you've got to really nail down why exactly you want to build with a particular construction, like in terms of what type of materials you want to use. I find that a lot of people that I speak to, maybe sometimes it's a bit too simplistic in terms of they don't know why it's good. They just know it's good. And then they go, well, this one's bad because I've been told it's bad. Versus like when you actually speak with a builder and they go, well, feasibility to actually make this work and achieve what you want to achieve, Mr. Owner, there's a few different range of options.
Well, I sold this, even transfers over to units, because I distinctly remember a unit block I was selling. There was 80 units in the unit block, and that's a big unit block. It was 7 stories, 10, 12 units per floor, whatever it was. And I remember buyers were coming through, knocking on the wall, and the buyers had a really hard time, because units were probably the last class of housing to actually move over to lightweight construction. And being such an enormous building, they were like, you've got to be kidding me. How can I be living in a building this big and knocking on the walls and the walls aren't strong? It really changed people's perception. And I'll tell you what the developer did. They armed our sales team with the product that was being used. They armed our sales team with the product that was being used compared to brick, side by side.
Yes.
And then they armed us with the acoustic score that their walls achieved, and the thermal score that their walls achieved. And also the physical distance was actually bigger between the cavities, so it breathed in between a little bit more.
Yeah.
And they proved scientifically that yes, it's not a brick wall or a concrete wall which you'd expect between units, but it's safer fire-wise, it's safer thermal-wise, it's better noise-wise than a brick wall. And that started turning people around.
Yeah. Well, look, if the science is there, it's hard to argue with it. And it's like anything in life where there's an older mentality with something, that's always hard to change people's perceptions of things, especially when you have the science there, but then the media gets involved and they go, your lightweight constructions are not good, they're just cutting costs, and then that just completely changes everyone's perceptions as well. But when you dig down to it, there was lots of very poorly built brick homes back then as well. And people always, and I find this really interesting, where you go, like some of the new builds, people go, I wouldn't touch a new build, it's built poorly. There's no guarantee of that. There's lots of ones that have been built well. I'm sure there's lots of ones that have been built poorly. I can always guarantee for all your 1960s, 1970s red brick blocks around the northern beaches, let's say specifically DY, there's a lot of them that were built well, and there's a lot of them I think that weren't built so well as well. It's not necessarily just construction material that affects how good of a build it is. And that's where I think sometimes people get a little bit lost with it. They're not worried necessarily about, I guess, how good the build was, more just, okay, if it was specifically this material, then that's the be-all, end-all, and that's going to change my opinion of it. So I think it's interesting. We've got a couple of comments here as well.
Yeah, so good morning to Jeff Luby. Good morning to Mel. And Luke Moroney. Is it worth the money to get double brick? Nicole's got a comment. We'll come into that shortly.
Yeah.
Is it worth the money to get double brick?
Depends how much you're paying. It depends what you want from it.
Do you want to know the short answer, guys and girls?
To build or to buy?
Yeah, that's the bottom line. I think to build, it's probably, for me personally, it's a no. And I think to buy, I think it's an absolute yes, because I don't think you're paying overs for it. And if you are paying overs, I don't think it's much.
I agree. I think you're actually paying unders, to be honest with you, when you're just talking purely about build cost, where these days to build some of these, like we've sold a couple of homes recently, these massive double brick mansions, big concrete slabs, huge thick concrete slabs between levels, and the homes are selling for X amount of millions, including the land value of the property. And then if you were to add that up and let's say buy that land raw and go build that home again today with the exact same materials, you'd be overcapitalizing more than what you pay for home by probably a couple $1 million more again. So I think buying it is phenomenal if that's what you're looking at. To build, I think you're just unnecessarily spending extras.
All right, Uncle Luke wants to know investor versus homeowner double brick. So if you're buying for an investment, would you treat what we just said different to if you're buying as an investment?
I don't think massively different.
Sorry, as
no, I don't think there's a massive difference. I think the same principles still stand. It depends on the price that you're buying it for. It depends what you're trying to achieve with the purchase with it. And I think those numbers come backwards as well. Obviously, maybe for an owner-occupier, you might be slightly more I've lived in double brick before. I feel more comfortable in that. I know it's good, so I'm going to do that again, which is understandable. Versus investment, you might be more swayed either way because you're not going to live there. If the numbers stack up, then it makes sense. That's the only way I can see it swaying.
And Nicole's got a question.
So with a minimum of one level of brick, you can save cost by making the second level or top level using marine plywood. This will provide insulation and strength. It is used a lot in the USA. Obviously, there's a technical way of doing this. Yeah. So pretty much, and you do see this a lot as well, where you've got a lot of homes that are either single brick or double brick on the ground floor to put simply, I guess, make a full foundation. And then the top floor is obviously a lot lighter weight as well. You save on costs there. You still have that solid foundation. I guess you get a bit of best of both worlds. That's quite common as well. You do see a lot of homes with that sort of setup, especially when you've got these maybe original single-story brick homes and they've had second-story add-ons. They tend to be a lot lighter weight up top.
And a good point there. A lot of these questions, this topic we're entertaining principally on Sydney, but definitely also Australia. Around the world, it's different, and it depends on the climate that you're dealing with. Around the world, it's sometimes impossible to deal with different types of construction. For instance, if it's an area that's due to gets built on a fault, it gets earthquakes and stuff like that on a regular basis. There are cities that have that, and the buildings are built to shake, and lightweight construction is a better build. So if it does shake, it doesn't crack and ruin the building being brick. So I think America, for example, they really don't like a double brick like the Aussies do.
Yeah, it's very true. Or especially a lot of the European background Aussies as well. That's sort of where the comes from, because there's a lot of the old Europeans double the brick, double the price. That's sort of where that light-hearted joke comes from, where they go, well, I've got a double brick home, so it's more solid, it's worth more.
And people are really passionate about that. Sometimes 100%. When they're selling, they've lived in it and loved it. What else has Nicole got to say?
So back in the days, families used to come and help that throughout the bricklaying process, using wrong mixtures and getting a lot of poor builds. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. You don't. The nice thing about these older double brick properties is they have stood the test of time. So if they're still standing there solid now, chances are that's not going to change. But that's the thing, you don't know what's gone into it back then also in terms of the way that it was constructed. I guess proving the test of time will always sort of help. But it's the same thing with some of these newer builds. I think a newer builds cop a lot of flack unnecessarily. And it's funny because it's almost like a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because newer builds cop so much flack with their lighter weight construction, it almost forces some of these builders, they can't really put all this extra cost into, let's say, the building costs to make these more solid builds, because then people aren't going to pay the premium for it. So they've almost forced them to go back to these sort of maybe slight, not cutting corners, but like these lighter weight constructions. And it's this vicious cycle. It's really interesting to see from the outside looking in, especially on being a real estate agent, us speaking with all these buyers, hearing about people's opinions with it. It's a really tough nut to crack, I think.
Yeah. And look, that's people that are aware of double brick or cladding and the type of build these days is probably less. Michael, what would you say when you're dealing with buyers on a house? How many buyers, say you had 50 people through open house,
Yes.
How many of those 50 people would have this awareness that we're talking about today?
Awareness, probably quite a lot. People that will actually bring it up to me and say, this is something that's crucial in my decision making, probably about 30-35%.
Nice. Interesting.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, funnily enough, it's a lot of the more older generation that would bring it up to me. Or if it's someone that's younger that's bringing up, you can hear they're saying it, but unless they're like a builder or someone like that, you can hear it's their mouth, but it's someone else's words that's coming out.
Well, it's like buying a car, you kick the tyre, and you're buying a house, you got that.
Yeah, exactly. Got to knock on the walls. Ooh, solid.
Another wall? It's good.
Like this.
Like that.
I think that's a wrap, guys.
That's the show.
What if?
Hopefully it helped you. Share this to someone if they're considering this topic at the moment. I hope we helped everyone out there today. And Michael, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
See you guys. Bye.